Today we are turning something that is not profitable at all into the reason that you actually make the sale. Sometimes you make stuff that you like, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't make any financial sense because of how long it takes to make and the materials that are needed in order to create it. If you were to set this up at a market and somebody sees it, they're probably not going to think that it's worth 40 bucks, maybe 15, maybe even 20, and they might not have a real reason to buy it. But in this video, we're not trying to sell this. We're trying to sell something else using this. Let's get into it. We have officially entered into the second week of not having power in the shop. We've got kind of power, but not the power that we need. And look what showed up. It's brand new Harvey table saw. It's beautiful, and I can't use it. Today we're making a beer caddy, and just first and foremost, it's going to take a while to cut out. And by a while, I mean 20 minutes. Normally when I'm creating stuff for markets, I really like to cut out stuff that takes less than 4 minutes, specifically on the CNC machine, because that really gives me a great place to start when pricing items in what I like to call the impulse purchase range. Creating a moment where somebody's walking by your booth, seeing your product for the very first time and thinking, oh, that's reasonably priced, I might as well go ahead and pick that up, instead of turning it into a very large purchase decision. Something like a cornhole board can be a few $100s and maybe somebody likes it, but they might not want to pull the trigger. That's where this project comes in, where a standalone as a project is really not going to justify the amount of money that it would take just to buy it, but adding this to a cornhole board and just adding a few dollars extra onto the overall purchase and saying that it comes along with it for free is a great way to be able to take a customer and just push them over the edge in order to be able to buy the things that you're offering. Not everything at a market has to be incredibly cheap in order for you to have a great day and be able to make a profit overall, but you really have to think about how you're selling the items that you're making. So today's project, this beer caddy or Coca-Cola caddy or whatever you want to call it, is just an example of how we can take an existing project that might not fit into a mold and add it somewhere else that makes it shine so much brighter than it ever could have before. So let's go ahead and cut this thing out, and then we'll talk about how we assemble it and then the different ways that I would be able to market it at a market. First and foremost, we're just cutting this out with one bit. We're going to be using our Downtown Jenny, and we're going to be running just some very, very simple toolpaths. So once again, today we are using our Makita router because the shop is a little bit underpowered at the moment, but I think I've got some awesome fixes on the way that are going to really transform this space in the next few years with the amount of power they're going to have available. But today, we're with the Makita. Once again, it is time for this week's mystery file, and what we're going to be doing is loading on some mystery G-code, which Mitz has sent me. We're going to be running all three of our HT beginner bits today. We're going to be using our Bull bit to do something. The V bit is going to do something, and then the Downtown Jenny, which I can only expect is going to do something. So, let's see what happens. Probably something. A day without beer is like, just kidding. I have no idea. Well, I don't know if that means that you're just kidding because you haven't remembered a day that you haven't had a beer, or that you've had so many beers that you don't know what you were saying. Regardless. Thanks, Mitz. Let's go ahead and get into like the meat and potatoes of this conversation, which is how do you take something like this, which a customer sees as a very simple object, and charge appropriately for it? Because as we just went over, this took 20 minutes to cut out on the CNC machine, and if you're valuing your time and what you do in the shop, there's no way that you're going to be selling this for $10, maybe even $20 of what the customer might think that this is worth. So we still have a very good product, but how do we turn something that is too expensive into something that turns out to make something else a really good deal? Now, for this in particular, the way that it all goes together is just the base slides down, it gets stopped right here, and then the top slides down as well, and then it friction fits right here. We're going to talk about the wobble in a second because we have version 2. Ta-da! All right, so the very first time that I put this together, I knew that I wanted the holes wider, and then I'll talk about the roundover in a second and the finishing parts that are going to make this successful. This by itself, if you're in a market setting and somebody sees this as $39 or whatever you deem appropriate for the sales price just for this object, they might view that and think that's a little bit much for that specific object, especially in person. But if you say this is a $40 value and it comes for free with your cornhole boards, that is a massive reason for somebody to be able to take that perceived value and then subtract it from the amount that they're spending on their cornhole boards. So now if they're viewing two different people selling cornhole boards, both are $200, yours technically is $160 because they're already getting this for free, or it's just the add-on item that'll help them jump into that purchase a lot faster. Now I've been talking about this as a beer caddy, but the truth is it can be a ton of different things. The first version we went through, and I was very happy with how everything fit together. Mitz did an incredible job of us going back and forth figuring out the plywood and how to exactly make things just friction fit really well. And after I cut it out, I realized that I really wanted the holes to be just a little bit bigger so that it could accommodate not only soda cans, but also different types of beer, things like spray paint cans and also like water bottles. So this very first design, I went ahead and did a round over on the very center right here where it slots down just to see how much it affected it, because I knew that it definitely would. And it definitely does. So we've got a lot of slop right here because we did a 3/16 inch round over on the very center, whereas right here, there's significantly less. And of course, you can fully take that out if you wanted to take a hammer and lightly tap on either end and really friction fit this down, but that's not where this shines. This really shines as a flat pack item, so it is very easy to ship if you are including this with a bigger ticket item. And it doesn't just have to be cornhole boards, it's really anything. This is just something small that you could say, hey, this is an extra object that comes along with the thing that I'm selling. Now right here, you can see that I branded this with CNC with me, and that's just to show you that this right here is a huge canvas to be able to put whatever you want to on it. So if you are just trying to sell this as an individual item, this is the area that really sets it aside. Now for me in particular, I know this is going to hang out in the shop. I'm going to use it to hold all my different clears and spray paints, and I'm probably going to make a few different versions of this and have it just in the corner so that everything is quick and easy to grab. Now I'll open up this video talking about like this is an add-on item or an upsell item, but also this is a really, really great gift. If you're not worried about the profitability of the object, this has a ton of different functions. So for all of you CNC With Me members, you're not only going to be able to get these in SVG DXF as well as Carve Coat and Vectric, but you're going to be getting a few different SVG versions as well so that you can use this for different things. There are a lot of different configurations, and we're just going to be including a few different versions so that you can get your mind running on the different things. Like you could even use this as a small garden tool caddy for just little things you're carrying around the yard. Tons of different ways that you can do this. And I definitely want to go ahead and talk about the fact that this is a really, really great laser project. It's only 1/2 inch material, so if you do have a laser that's powerful enough to go through it, like one of the JTech ones or a CO2 laser, this is an amazing laser project where you would just have to focus on cutting out the areas where these cans sit down into, but the rest of it you could just go ahead and use your laser, which depending on your workflow and the tools that you have available to you might be a faster option. So that's one of the reasons that all the files for CNC With Me come with DXF files, because some of the parts of these different things really do make more sense for a laser, whereas with a CNC machine, you definitely can get the same results. But like I said, depending on your workflow, it might be faster to use two different tools to be able to accomplish the end goal. Now, as far as material selection is concerned, I'm really happy with the Baltic Birch and the fact that we went 1/2 inch. But if you did want to make this waterproof, you could just as easily use HDPE or some different type of plastic so that all of a sudden this becomes completely waterproof, and then you can take pictures of it next to a pool or something like that. Whereas I would just be putting a very light coat of lacquer on this just as a small amount of protection. Like I've been saying this entire time, this is a cool, fun project, but for the amount of time that you have to put into it, it's not incredibly profitable unless you just take a step back and view the other objects that you're selling and use it to bundle. Because as we started off with a huge deficit as far as profit is concerned, it doesn't mean that it's not profitable. I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments of how you would use this, if you would use it at all, if you think it's even worth bundling with something else, or if you think this is just something that might be helpful in the shop. Thanks for stopping by the shop today. I really do appreciate it, and I will be seeing you all next Friday for another CNC With Me video. All right, bye.